And right now, as we're having these discussions, you know who's trying to shut down members from voting in the way that they want to vote? It's the president, who literally said he would look at anyone who decided that they were going to vote to release the Epstein files as hostile. If you require news outlets and companies to have content moderators to ensure their coverage promotes a political ideology or leaning, would that be federal suppression?
Well, that does sound like an interference with the company's content moderation decision.
All of these actions are exactly what Trump has done since he's taken office. Make no mistake, Trump is weaponizing his idea of free speech to force folks and companies to become his political puppets to promote his propaganda.
This hearing took a turn the moment Rep. Jasmine Crockett opened her mic. What followed wasn't just questioning. It was a full-scale dismantling of the myth that Trump is some champion of free speech. In this clip, Crockett exposes how free speech is being twisted, weaponized, and used to pressure institutions into political obedience. If you think you understand the First Amendment debate, this moment will make you see it in a whole new light. Let's get into it.
It's interesting that we're sitting here and we're talking about the so-called threats to the First Amendment when the biggest threat to free speech right now is the old guy that is sitting over in the Oval. Now, Mr. Farage and I met over a month ago, and he has made it a brand of being this free speech warrior. And one of the things that I wanted to recap was the fact that he literally tried to shut down my ranking member as he was engaging in his own free speech. It seems like it's more so free speech for me, but not for thee, a lot of times with certain people. And it's sad that he had to run and have lunch with Trump or to go raise some money for his 4-member party. So, Mr. Price, you get to be the lucky one to help me figure out what exactly free speech advocates believe. It's good to see you again. You tell me whether these government actions support free speech or suppress it. Let's call it free speech or federal suppression. Fining or defunding news outlets or companies because they don't share a particular political message.
I think I'm not entirely sure what context you're referring to. I think I'd need a little bit more information.
So, long story short, if they decide that they are going to fine or defund any news outlet simply because it doesn't necessarily go far left or far right, do you think that that is a violation of free speech?
Well, I'm not entirely sure how it would connect with, let's say, the area of expertise that I have. I think you may be referring to the PBS controversy. It's probably not something that I would be able to really...
Not necessarily, but let me go to Professor K. Professor K, did you understand my question? Fining or defunding news outlets or companies because they don't share a particular political message?
Yeah, thank you for the question. At the very core of the First Amendment is a prohibition of viewpoint discrimination.
Okay.
And what you described sounds like viewpoint discrimination.
So it definitely sounds like federal suppression. If you require news outlets and companies to have content moderators to ensure their coverage promotes a political ideology or leaning, would that be federal suppression?
Well, that does sound like an interference with the company's content moderation decision.
Banning materials because of their content.
Materials.
Yes, so like books.
Oh, of course. Well, and we've seen this in the range of book bans at libraries across the country.
Absolutely. What about threatening private companies with lawsuits or fines unless they do the government's bidding?
It sounds like pressure that would be undue, yes.
Okay, so I agree with you. All of these actions are exactly what Trump has done since he's taken office. Make no mistake, Trump is weaponizing his idea of free speech to force folks and companies to become his political puppets to promote his propaganda. Trump and Republicans defunded NPR because they argued it was biased. Trump has removed books discussing racial discrimination at U.S. military academies, including the amazing Maya Angelou's autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. He's tried to strip funding to schools across the country if they don't remove materials that include discussions of racial discrimination or that promote diversity. And in order for the merger between Paramount and Skydance to happen, the FCC chairman and Republican-appointed commissioners required Skydance to establish a bias monitor. And in its FCC order noted reports, quote, concerning negative media coverage of the Trump administration. This is to say nothing of Trump pushing television networks to get rid of comedians and talk show hosts who criticize his administration, say like Mr. Colbert. Let's call this what it is. It's Trump weaponizing the idea of free speech to force people, institutions, and companies to be his mouthpieces. This ain't free speech, it's propaganda. Meanwhile, my Republican colleagues are out here having a meltdown over the European bill, one that, by the way, includes provisions to fight child trafficking. You know, it's frustrating because we talk about being fiscally responsible and we talk about free speech. And right now, as we're having these discussions, you know who's trying to shut down members from voting in the way that they want to vote? It's the president, who literally said he would look at anyone who decided that they were going to vote to release the Epstein files as hostile. That sounds like a threat as it relates to all First Amendment protections, in addition to the fact that it's literally contravening our constitutional duty that we swore an oath to, because we don't swear to an orange king. Instead, we have sworn an oath to the Constitution, and we were elected to represent the people that elected us. Thank you so much, and I'll yield.
What Representative Jasmine Crockett delivered in that hearing wasn't just sharp questioning. It was a masterclass in exposing the difference between what people claim free speech is and how they actually behave when they have the power to restrict it. And that distinction matters because understanding free speech requires more than slogans. It requires clarity about how government power is used, who it's used against, and whether it protects the public or punishes them for speaking their truth. Crockett forced that clarity into the room. She wasn't asking theoretical questions. She wasn't playing partisan games. She was doing what oversight is meant to do, revealing how free speech erodes when leaders weaponize the First Amendment to silence criticism rather than defend expression. And what made her approach so effective is that she broke down the concept of free speech to its simplest form, without distractions, without jargon, just straightforward cause and effect. If you defund an outlet because you dislike their reporting, that's suppression. If you ban books because they discuss uncomfortable realities, that's suppression. If you pressure private companies to change their programming or fire their hosts because the president doesn't like the jokes they tell, that's suppression. When you strip away the political noise, these actions become unmistakable. And that's exactly what Crockett did. She stripped the issue to its bones. She created a moment where the witnesses had no choice but to agree with her because the principles she outlined weren't Democratic principles or Republican principles. They were constitutional principles. At its core, the First Amendment exists to limit government, not empower it to decide which ideas are acceptable. Yet she showed example after example of Donald Trump doing precisely that, using the tools of government not to protect speech, but to punish anything that challenged his authority or bruised his ego. She reminded us that real free speech isn't about whether you like or dislike the content. It isn't about whether a book makes you uncomfortable or whether a comedian mocks your political party. It's about whether the government has the right to interfere with that speech at all. And historically, societies don't lose free speech all at once. They lose it gradually, through book removals justified as protecting children, through funding cuts justified as fighting bias, through political pressure disguised as quality control. Crockett shed light on that slow erosion and connected it to something deeply human, the need for people to express themselves fully without fear. Her confrontation about the Epstein files made that even clearer. When a president threatens lawmakers for how they intend to vote, it becomes more than a political dispute. It becomes a direct attack on democratic independence. Crockett wasn't simply pointing out hypocrisy. She was sounding an alarm about the danger of leaders who believe loyalty to them matters more than loyalty to the Constitution. Her line about refusing to swear to an orange king wasn't just humor. It was a reminder of the oath public servants take, the moral weight of that oath, and the consequences of forgetting it. This is what makes Crockett's voice so vital in this moment. She connects policy to people, law to lived experience, and constitutional language to everyday realities. She speaks in a way that helps ordinary viewers understand the stakes, that free speech isn't merely a talking point. It is a safeguard that allows communities to advocate for justice, to challenge inequity, to preserve history, even when it makes the powerful uncomfortable. And when political actors begin using government influence to punish viewpoints, they aren't defending free speech, they're dismantling it. Moments like this are bigger than the hearing room. They shape the way citizens understand the rights they hold and the ways those rights can be quietly undermined. And that's exactly why this commentary matters. It brings the nuance forward, it refuses to let complex issues be flattened into political tribalism, and it challenges viewers to think more deeply about who is really fighting for their freedom and who is trying to control it. If this breakdown helped you understand the moment more deeply, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps amplify the voices that defend democracy and challenge the misuse of power. Let's keep pushing for accountability, truth, and the freedom to speak it.